What if events went differently in Spider-Man 2002? What if Peter Parker, Mary Jane, and Harry Osborn got bit by the spider? Welcome back, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, to yet another brand new Marvel's What If episode. As we continue the brand new series on the channel, we're revamping it. It's What If Peter Parker, Mary Jane, and Harry Osborn all got bit by the spider, part 3, so I would highly recommend that you guys go check out part 1 and 2 before diving into this one, because things are about to go insane. We have Mary Jane going on a path of darkness. And not only that, we have Harry Osborn who's going on his own path of darkness. Now, I think a lot of people were probably not expecting me to flip the script this much, but I had to. I really had to. I wanted to really give it a lot of drama, give it a lot of emotion, so it's going to be very interesting seeing the path that is played out and see what happens. But again, thank you so much for the latest support on this channel. It really goes a long way, and I do want to say I would highly recommend that you guys check out the Patreon, the Substack, as well as there's exclusive perks and bonus content on both different platforms. But that being said, my fellow watchers, grab some popcorn, grab whatever you have to do, and let's get into part 3 of this brand new What If. Location: Peter's home. The hammering on Peter's door woke him up. It was about 5 a.m. in the morning, and someone was already causing a ruckus. Peter groaned as he threw the sheets off his aching body and walked toward the door. As he uncoupled the lock, the door flew open, slamming him in the eye. Peter yelled as he held his left eye in pain and staggered backward from the force of the hit. "Where is she?" the intruder yelled at him. Peter recognized the voice, but not the person who he was looking for. What did he mean by she? Who was the she he was referring to? There was only one person he knew that they both knew, and she wasn't with him. He hadn't seen her since she fled the dinner. Peter held his left eye as he looked up at the perpetrator, Flash Thompson, in his doorway. He was covered in sweat from a jog or sprint over to his place. He had a gray hoodie that was torn at its seams, together with black runner shorts and sneakers that had depressed soles from years of using them to sprint. He looked furious. Comically, all that was left were steams oozing from his nose and ears to make him look like an angry bull portrayed in cartoons. "What are you talking about?" Peter asked Flash, as the pain in his eyes began to subside. He needed to place ice over it to prevent it from swelling up like a hideous allergic reaction or a bee sting. "Don't play dumb with me, Peter. I know you have her here," Flash spat with disgust at Peter as his eyes scanned the room. "Mary Jane," Flash called as he began to saunter around the room. Peter was fed up. First, Flash had woken him at the crack of dawn, which was unnecessary. Second, he had slammed his face with his own door and had not apologized for the insolence. Third, he was accusing him for something he clearly hadn't done, which was holding Mary Jane hostage. Lastly, he was invading his privacy by searching his home when Peter himself hadn't authorized him, Flash, to do so. Peter left his eye and clutched the arm of Flash in a vice-like grip. "I think it's time you leave, Flash," Peter commanded. There was a subtle tone of threat. He was daring Flash to look for a fight. He was ready to give it to him. Mary Jane wouldn't be here to stop him from pummeling Flash. Peter was searching for an opportunity to complete what he had started on the evening of the dinner. Man to man. All the years of bullying would be subsumed into this one fight. Flash looked at the spot Peter had grabbed him. He scoffed and ripped his arm out of the grip. Flash winced at how painful it was, but he didn't want to show the pain on his face. Flash continued to move around the apartment, which was not much to start with.
Peter's apartment was a self-con, which had a small bed wedged at the wall close to the window. The room had an annexed room where the kitchen was, and another cubicle to the left that served as a bathroom and a toilet. The small wooden construction by the other end served as a contraction for holding clothes. Peter was fed up. He gripped Flash's arm again and pulled him back. Flash struggled as Peter's grip was firmer and stronger. Flash swung his left arm to deliver a left hook to Peter's face. But Peter sensed the danger coming. He moved his head back as Flash's hand passed his face. He let go of Flash's arm and connected his fist with Flash's nose. A sickening crack reverberated through the room. Flash's nose heated up as the pain spread from his nose to his brain in split seconds. He moaned in pain as blood began to ooze from his nose. "You broke my nose," Flash yelled through the pool of blood in his hands. Peter smiled. It was satisfying to hurt Flash. He had wanted to do that for a long time. "Leave before I do more," Peter threatened, and Flash looked at his eyes. Peter's eyes were clouded in anger and hate. Flash didn't recognize the nerd he had bullied a long time ago. It wasn't the same person any longer. Flash walked out of the apartment, with his bleeding nose dripping over the floor. Peter slammed the door as the adrenaline faded from him. It sunk into Peter, the subconscious message that Mary Jane was missing. Location: Osborn's basement. Harry stared at himself in the mirror. He had materialized his father's suit genetically. He had his armor, but his mind wasn't as senile as he thought it would be. There were no voices in his head clamoring for attention. He still felt in control of everything. The serum had done just what Harry had expected it to do. It had reacted with the spider DNA, and had eliminated certain foibles of the serum, one of which was the insanity. Harry was stronger than he had ever been before. He flexed his muscles in the suit and felt the power coursing through him. He bent his wrist and projected it at the wall. A viscid fluid shot out of his wrist and attached to the wall. He pulled his arm back and part of the wall ripped out, with the force of the web detaching from it. His web was stronger and thicker. Harry smiled. He could finally use his web with his father's suit. He walked to the table where his hoverboard was stored and picked it. He turned it over and ran his fingers over the Osborn calligraphy that was engraved into the slick board. He turned it over and placed it on the floor, stepped on it, and activated it. He hovered in the air for a few minutes, relishing in the feeling of being powerful and stronger. He cocked his head back and cackled maniacally at the feeling. He was going to be Peter's nightmare and worst enemy. He was going to take everything and everyone Peter loved, from his fragile aunt to Mary Jane, whom he loved. He had a different hatred for Mary Jane. Mary Jane had been the sole purpose Peter had killed his father, he suspected. That would be the case because he knew Mary Jane wasn't into crime fighting like Peter was. But if she was at the scene of his father's death, then she was also one of the reasons he died. He was going to kill them, the aunt and Mary Jane, and make Peter watch it before killing Peter finally. His plan was solid, and no one would be able to stop him now. Even Peter, whom he knew was bitten by the spider, wasn't strong enough to combat him with the serum and his spliced spider DNA. Harry dismounted his hoverboard and deactivated the suit. The suit retracted into a small chain around his neck. He needed to visit Peter first and play the part of a friend. He wanted Peter to trust him first before stabbing him in the back like he had done to him. Location: Peter's home. Peter hadn't left the house in a whole day after Flash had visited. He stalked the media for any sign that Mary Jane was found. He had dropped an anonymous message about her being missing in her office, and he hoped they would do the needful. He didn't want to go to the police himself to file the report, because he would be the prime suspect. People would remember him from the dinner incident and immediately point fingers at the bitter friend. He was very sure that Flash was telling people he was the cause of Mary Jane's disappearance. He was, but he already felt guilty enough without the blame game. There was a firm knock on the door, and Peter stilled. Maybe it was the police. Maybe Flash had reported him for kidnapping Mary Jane. Peter moved with stealth toward the door as the door rattled the second time from the knock. He placed his eyes on the peephole when the voice of someone he had forgotten about resonated with him. Harry Osborn. "Come on, Peter, open, it's me," Harry called out. Peter was immediately filled with guilt, for the second time that day, for a completely different person. He was so preoccupied with Mary Jane that he had forgotten about his best friend whose father he had killed. Did Harry know about the death of his father yet? Did he know that he was the cause of it? Peter wiped his sweaty palm on his jeans and uncoupled the bolt on the door and opened it. Harry smiled brightly at him and hugged him. It was strange. Harry wasn't really a hugger. He gave half hugs, but never a full hug. Harry's arms were wrapped around him for a few minutes, till Peter unsurely reciprocated the hug. Harry patted his back, pulled back, and stared at Peter for a few minutes before walking into his home. "How have you been, Peter? You didn't even come to see me when I was in the hospital." Harry was setting Peter on a guilt trip road already. He hadn't stayed in the hospital for more than 5 minutes after he woke up, so he didn't care if Peter had come. "I did, but you had been discharged early," Peter lied. He had never gone there. "That's strange. The doctors said I had no visitors." Harry sat on the chair and swatted the crumpled wrappers of snacks from the sofa. "Oh, I couldn't bring myself to see you in such condition, so I never went in. I watched you from outside," Peter said again. He was full of lies today. "Oh, well, I'm here now," Harry smiled. "How have you been?" Harry sounded so genuinely concerned that Peter unburdened himself to him. "Mary Jane's missing, and I'm seriously worried," Peter spoke as he sat beside Harry. "Mary Jane's missing." Harry's shock was apparent, but shock for the wrong reason. He wanted to be the one to capture her and keep her. He wanted to see Peter dwindle down a road of pain, knowing that the girl he loved was out there somewhere. And Harry wanted the satisfaction of keeping the girl away from him. Whoever had her may release her anytime soon. That's if she was indeed kidnapped. We got into a fight at her dinner a day before yesterday, and she stormed out. Since then, I haven't seen her. Peter's face fell into his hands as his eyes prickled. "Have you filed a complaint with the police?" Harry asked. Peter responded in the negative, and Harry inquired for reasons. Peter told him about how he would be the prime suspect due to the fight he had with her boyfriend in public. Harry shook his head. He would ensure that the complaint was filed if Mary Jane didn't turn up today. He would pretend to be one of the workers of Mary Jane and also mention the fight. He would set the law in motion against him. "I'm sure she will turn up soon if she doesn't. Then we can go look for her," Harry suggested. "I'll provide you with whatever assistance you need. Mary Jane was my friend too." Harry stretched his hand and patted Peter's back again. It dawned on Peter that he was more than a shitty friend. He hadn't apologized for the loss of Harry's father. Not as the killer, but as a friend he was supposed to be. "I'm so sorry for your loss, Harry." Peter leaned up and removed his face from his hands. Harry's smile faltered a bit. His father's killer was sitting across from him, apologizing for murdering his father. It took a lot of restraint to prevent pummeling Peter's face. In due time, Harry told him. Harry sighed for a dramatic effect. "It's all right," Harry said. "I just wish I knew who did it," Harry added. This was bait. Maybe if Peter came clean, he would leave Mary Jane alone, or his aunt. Would that help? Knowing? Peter asked. It seemed like the truth was at the tip of his tongue. Yes, it would. Harry looked at Peter. He could see the conflict in his eyes for a bit before Peter evaded. "I wish I knew too. I'm so sorry, Harry." Peter apologized again. Not as a friend this time, but as the person who had killed his friend's father. Harry's anger brewed. He couldn't stand his presence any longer. Peter had lied to his face, and he was going to pay. Harry stood from the sofa with a smile on his face. He shook Peter firmly and told him that it was nice to see him, and he was sure Mary Jane would turn up. Harry internally prayed against it. He left Peter's house with a stronger resolve. He was going to crush Peter and everything he stood for. Location: somewhere in New York. Mary Jane leaped from the building tops at a startling pace. She cut through the wind like she was made of air herself. The Venom symbiote had reacted with the spider genes to enhance her powers, but there was an effect of this. The Venom symbiote played on her weakness and filled her head with thoughts about Peter's betrayal. It flooded her mind with memories of how Peter had left her for dead when she fell off the roof. It flooded her with memories of how Peter had let her be part of the death of one of their closest friends. Venom had altered her feelings. It enhanced the malice, the hatred she naturally felt, and suppressed the good one she had for Peter. She clung to the side of the skyscraper with her phalanges, which were retractable. She looked over the bustling city of New York, and how serene it looked. It looked calm and tranquil, and she hated it. She wanted to inspire fear and terror. She wanted people to tremble at her feet. She wanted to make Peter pay for the wrong he had done to her. Mary Jane leaped from the top of the building and crashed to the center of the street, slamming a car in the process. This caused the cars behind to slam on their brakes, which was too late as the halt was too sudden. The cars crashed into one another as the passengers spotted the towering creature in the middle of the road. Mary Jane yelled in Venom's voice, and the roar was intimidating. Drivers and passengers alike screamed in terror and fled from their vehicles to avoid the beastly thing. Venom rushed through the crowd, swatting the humans away like buzzing flies, annoying the wounded ears of a dog. She didn't want to go in search of Peter. She wanted Peter to come to her, and the easiest way to do that was to cause a ruckus. Create an enemy that Peter would want to defeat to stay relevant in the society. That was her plan. So she continued. It was a matter of seconds before the police showed up. The police commanded that Venom put its hands in the air, or whatever they expected would be the result of the statement. Mary Jane chuckled inwardly. She didn't know the full extent of the symbiote's prowess yet, but she suspected that bullets would not be one of the things designed to kill her. She forged ahead at the policeman who opened fire at her. Like she had suspected, the bullets did nothing to its skin. It was almost impregnable. Mary Jane flipped the cars with sheer strength. She would never had done that years ago, but now she was taking all the chances she could. The cars exploded upon contact with the ground. The explosion sent the people around soaring through the air, slamming into ground, groaning in pain. Location: Peter's home street in New York. The sight of the flames swirling in the air illuminated the night sky. The damage was getting more disastrous, and Peter was already clad in his suit to combat the menace, whatever it was. Peter opened his window, wore his mask over his face, and swung into the night sky. He swung with determination toward the crime scene. Whoever this villain was would go down. Peter was planning on channeling all his anger and grief he felt into this battle. He was slightly glad that the villain had picked the right time to show up. He needed to express the pent-up rage he felt. As he swung through the city, he heard the screams of the citizens who were fleeing from the scene. Their voices got louder as he got closer, and he knew he had to put an end to it. He landed at a distance behind the beastly creature, which continued to terrorize the masses. The beastly thing towered over Peter, but he didn't let himself be afraid. Peter looked around. He scanned for something that he would use to hurt the creature. Peter shot his web at a car, planted his feet to the ground, and pivoted himself. The web acted as a fulcrum as he moved the car across the air and slammed into the creature with impact. The impact had been unexpected. Venom swerved off the ground and slammed into the edge of the building. Peter didn't see any trace of Mary Jane just yet. She was reserving the big reveal. Peter had been whom she had wanted to see, and he had surprisingly taken too long to respond. Venom ran across the expanse of the road, trampling every material that dared cross its path. It leaped into the air with its fist high above its head, ready to slam into Peter. Peter dodged the trajectory of Venom's blow by moving quickly to the left. Venom slammed to the ground, exposing himself to a counterattack. Peter kicked off the ground and attached himself to Venom's back. He wound his web around Venom's throat and tightened the force of the web against its throat. Venom shrieked and pulled with force. It stumbled and clawed at its back to throw Peter off, but Peter clung with the intent stubbornness of a spider to Venom. Mary Jane then did something she never knew Venom could do. She extended prickly parts from her back, which stabbed Peter's stomach. The symbiote had extended itself from her back in a bid to save her from getting strangled by Peter. The pain was unimaginable. The symbiote's extension had passed through Peter's stomach and had left a gaping hole in it. The move had been so sudden and too quick that Peter's spider sense hadn't sensed it. He crashed to a ground as he bled and groaned in pain. This couldn't be the end for him. He wouldn't let it be. His body burned as the sides ached from the wound. He felt dizzy and pale from the amount of blood he was losing. He stared at Venom as it sauntered toward him. Peter crawled on the ground, moving away from Venom. He had never felt this much fear before. He was afraid that he would die and there was no one to save him. He felt his life flash before his eyes as he felt his life leaving. He wondered if this was how Uncle Ben felt when he was shot, and he was cradling him in his arms. Peter thought about everything. The memories he had made in high school. The mistakes he had made with Mary Jane. The thought about Mary Jane brought a new amount of pain that he had never felt before. He would miss her, and it was sad that he was leaving the world without seeing her again. He would do anything to get a glimpse of the warmth in her eyes. Mary Jane felt like it was time. The damage had been done. She wanted her face to be the last thing Peter would see before he died. Venom retracted into Mary Jane, revealing herself. Peter's world crumbled. He didn't understand what was happening and how Mary Jane had materialized in front of him. Surprised Peter, Mary Jane's voice had a sinister echo. Venom was speaking with her. Peter shuddered and crawled on the tar as blood oozed from him. I would like to stay and chat, but you don't seem like you have a lot of time left. Mary Jane buckled her shoulders and the symbiote wrapped around her entire body. Peter fell to the floor as he had lost hope completely. There was no way he would come back from this. Tears strolled down his cheeks till they struck his blood that had pooled around his body. There was no greater pain than being at the mercy of someone you once loved. Peter had a lot of questions to ask Mary Jane, but he didn't have the strength to do so. He would ask her why she was doing this. He would ask her what had happened to her. He would ask her who made her do it, because he felt she was compelled to do it. He would ask her what she was. He closed his eyes to honor the beautiful memories he had made with Mary Jane. He didn't want to taint it with whoever this was standing in front of him. Peter waited for a while, but he heard no sound. Neither did he feel any impact. His eyes fluttered open for a bit when he heard a plangent groan. He saw Green Goblin. No, it was a look-alike. This looked different. This was Harry. Harry's glider had sunk into the back of Venom. Venom extended its prickly parts behind and knocked Harry out of his glider. Harry fell to the floor but maneuvered his body and landed on his feet. He wasn't wearing any mask. His face was exposed and had green veins streaking at his jawline. Peter knew something was wrong with Harry, but he couldn't speak now. He needed to leave the scene. Peter summoned energy to crawl toward a wall where he rested. The fight between Venom and Harry went on for a few minutes till Harry threw a bomb at Venom, and the explosion caused Venom to shriek from the fire. Harry seized the distraction to mount his glider, moved toward Peter, carry and bridle style, and flew into the night. Peter went unconscious in Harry's arms. Harry saved him, but he had ulterior motives. He didn't want Peter to die in anybody's hands but his. As he flew toward his basement, he realized he would need to take care of the creature Venom first before Peter.
And that is going to be it for part 3 of What If Peter Parker, Mary Jane, and Harry Osborn had gotten bit by the spider. Now, what did you think of these twists and turns? It's going to be very interesting to see how Peter handles the situation and see what happens with him. Like, could he turn into a villain? Even Peter Parker's going down the wrong path, I feel like, and all these different paths are going to be converging in like part 4. We might even have a part 5. I don't know how long this is going to be, but it's going to be long. The story is going to be long. Fleshing out these characters have been absolutely crazy, bringing like the Venom symbiote early into the timeline, and even having Harry Osborn almost kind of teeter-tottering on being evil and seeing, is he going to do the right thing at the end of the day, or is he going to continue down this dark and evil path? But that being said, my fellow watchers, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. And if you guys have any requests, let me know, as we will be doing a ton more fan requests, especially with like the brand new Deadpool and Wolverine movie. There's so much more that I really want to do, so it's going to be really cool. But thank you so much, and I will see you soon. Peace out.